Hi, thank you for joining us for another great interview with Atlanta Veg Fest. My name is Lee Saluzzi and I'm the Executive Director of Atlanta Veg Fest. And today I'm very happy to have with us Andie Thompkins, who is the Executive Director at Full Circle Farm Animal Sanctuary. Thank you for joining us, Andie.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So I'm familiar with the sanctuary. It's a beautiful place, and I'm glad that we have somewhere in Georgia where we can visit animals and feel okay about it. I have a 9-year-old son, so it's nice to be able to go there and kind of talk to him about veganism in a way that he can understand and have him interact with the animals in an environment like that. So tell our viewers a basic information about the sanctuary for those who've never been.
Okay, sure. Well, first, I'll say we love Atlanta Veg Fest too. We really appreciate the support.
Thank you.
So Full Circle Farm Sanctuary is a 501c3 nonprofit sanctuary for rescue farmed animals. Being a 501c3 means that we are solely relying on the generosity of those who support our mission and support our belief for changes for the world. And we are located in Warm Springs, Georgia, so about an hour and a half south of Atlanta, depending on where you're starting the journey. And we have more than 150 rescued farm animals who call Full Circle home. So we have everyone from cows, pigs, chickens, sheep, emus, horses, donkeys, the list goes on. Lots of animals call Full Circle home. And a really important thing to know about Full Circle is that it's a forever home. So once an animal finds their way to Full Circle, they are there for the rest of their lives. And we're really honored to be able to make that promise to them that we will give them the best in care, the best in shelter, nutrition, socialization, enrichment that they so deserve. And Full Circle is supported by an incredible team of folks. So we have people who are on our team to make sure the facilities are up to par for what those residents need. We have an incredible animal care team who provides just everything you could possibly think of in the way of care and nurturing and shelter for the residents. And then we have an education and outreach team to ensure that we're able to share our message in a way that really reaches broad audiences and gets the message through to all sorts of folks, because we all deserve to learn and to experience what Full Circle has to offer. I'll sort of end that intro on our mission, because I think it's important that Full Circle mission is twofold. So we aim to save lives and we aim to change lives. So the saving lives part, of course, providing a forever home, and the changing lives part is that educational piece where we can really go past our physical boundaries at the sanctuary and reach all sorts of people to ensure a better future for all animals.
Yeah, the educational component I know is very important, and I've been to other sanctuaries where that's the case as well, and it's really nice to take a tour and hear really nice stories about the residents themselves, but also just about factory farming industry in general. You know, it's good to have that information. In addition to the tours, how else does Full Circle provide education on that realm?
We provide education in all sorts of ways. I would say we try to make every single interaction that we have with anyone a teachable moment. And when I talk about our education program, I like to focus on the why, the how, and the where. So the why is that we've got this unique situation being on the property at Full Circle where we have limited space. So we have tons of stories within our gates, all the different residents, everybody has an individual story, but we can impact so many more lives if we go beyond that and educate, like you said, about factory farming or just about the alternative, sort of what's right in front of us with this is the way it could be. So we can make those connections between the way it is in society, norms, or factory farming, animal agriculture, whatever, and then tie that to the alternative, better reality. So we do this by getting a gauge on what each individual comes to the sanctuary knowing. So we have audiences that are really young. Lots of schools will interact with us through field trips or library activities, story time, readings, classroom presentations. And then it goes all the way up to an older adult population who might be either longtime vegans or they might be learning about veganism for the first time. So when we meet someone, our first goal is to see where they are on their journey and tailor to that. We want everybody to get something out of this and not be overwhelmed. So we've got the tours that you mentioned, and in the wake of the pandemic, tours have turned into virtual tours. We've been really lucky to partner recently with Sweet Farm, and you might have seen they have GoTo meeting going on where people can join in from all around the world and take a quick tour of a sanctuary. And that has helped us reach thousands of people just within our sanctuary, and all different sorts of people. You know, they might think they're just gonna, see a llama on the screen, and then they come away having learned about an entirely new world that they didn't know existed, or they're using that opportunity to share with others something that they already believe in. So tours are a great educational opportunity. Going into classrooms is a great opportunity. We can also do that virtually, and one of our virtual field trips a few months ago was for a class in the UK. So again, those physical boundaries, we're getting all over the place for education. Social media is a way that we do education. So if you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, even on TikTok now, which I'm slowly learning, but
I haven't gotten that far with TikTok yet.
I'm a little too old to understand TikTok. I think there's a threshold, but every moment is teachable. So we recently did a campaign and an educational series on social media called "Everyone Deserves a Doctor."
I did see that campaign. It was, first of all, the artwork was adorable. I know Erin did your artwork, right?
Yes, Erin is amazing.
She is, and for listeners and viewers who don't know, she designed our 2019 artwork. It was very pretty. But yeah, I like that campaign, and tell everybody what was around that campaign.
So "Everyone Deserves a Doctor" was really to acknowledge that truly everyone deserves care. Everyone deserves not only a safe place to live, to find solace, to get, their basic needs met, but also as we age or as we have, life throws things at us regardless of our species. And no matter who you are, really, medical care is something you deserve. So we took that opportunity to take people behind the scenes and show the care that we provide daily to residents, whether it's nutritional supplementation that they need or medications that they need, especially our senior population at the sanctuary. Just like us, the older they get, the more attention to, certain ailments they need, and it takes a lot of care and compassion and organizing. It takes a lot of people to keep more than 150 residents at the very tip-top shape that they deserve to be in. So that campaign was really fun. Like you said, it was, Erin did a great job making it really approachable. So we had Dougie McHoofer, MD, and Nurse Norma, patient Penny the pig, and I think that is a way that we approach a lot of education at Full Circle, is making it very welcoming and giving people an opportunity to interact with it at whatever level they're comfortable with, but really come away with some new information, and certainly in that case, learning a lot about what goes on in sanctuaries.
Which has got to be important too, because I know, I do like to think that most people are smart enough to understand that it costs money to have over 100 animal residents, but that people might not think so deep into it that if you keep an animal for the course of their lifetime, things come up. They don't just stay in a pasture happy and grazing. That costs you guys, thousands and thousands of dollars per animal. So I'm sure that that's important for you guys, donation-wise, to let people know just how much it costs to keep animals healthy and happy through their lifetime.
It really does. We certainly ask people for a lot of support, and we don't do that certainly out of a place of greed. It's really, there's a lot more that goes into animal care. I think any of us who have gotten a dog for the first time, you realize pretty quickly there's so much that goes into it. And I think everyone deserves a doctor gave us a chance to say, hey, not only do we really need your support, but look at what your support does.
Yeah.
Annie would be in so much pain without you helping us provide this care to her. And really, to the bigger picture, look at what we're able to provide when we care and we all rally together to make these things happen for these individuals, when the alternative and sort of this norm that we're fighting is to not give them that. And I think it's a beautiful thing that everyone in our supporter base will help us make that a reality for each resident.
And what a stark contrast from a life that the residents, most all of them, came from, probably from the farming industry, where they are treated as a commodity and their comfort and well-being is not even an iota of consideration, to their life now, where they're being just regular doctor care. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's I've often said that, full circle, we do so many things, but really the core, I think, in how we enact behavioral change or changes of heart in people is experiencing all of that in a very heart-centered way. So when you come to the sanctuary, or when you start to learn about the sanctuary, you're not learning about, oh, here's how much it costs to take care of a cow, quote unquote, or a pig, quote unquote. You are being introduced to someone. We'll post about Thunder the horse or Immaculée the alpaca, and over time, even if you haven't met that individual in person, you start to understand the complexity of their situation. That Thunder loves snack time, and he also needs medical attention. Or Kelsey is the baby of the herd, and he loves to play in the pond, and the rest of the herd looks after him. But Sienna the cow also had a really painful surgery. You get sort of a real life perspective of what can be each individual's experience and what it takes to make that a beautiful reality for them.
That's, heart-centered. That's a good way to put that. It is, very important for people to be able to connect in order to feel empathy, I think. And that's, last time I was there was for a Thanksgiving, for Thanksgiving. No, it was just for a tour, but it was near Thanksgiving. And I brought my son, who, he knows we're vegan and he's on board with it, but I wanted him to meet a turkey. And
yes.
He loved turkeys. We got him a stuffed animal that was a turkey, and he carried it with him during the tour. And it was like, not just we don't eat these birds, because it was, he got to meet Pierre. Is that, do you have
Pierre.
Pierre. So he met Pierre, and he got to see, Pierre is kind of sassy, and he has girlfriends, and he lives here, and he got to see a little bit of a personality. And I think that's really important for anybody who, whether they're even thinking about making a decision to stop, eating animals, just to connect. I think connection is the first step to, a harmony with anybody. So that's really a great way to put that.
And I love that you mentioned that you met Pierre. So Pierre and other residents of the sanctuary are a great teaching opportunity for accepting others as they are. So you mentioned that Pierre, when you meet Pierre, you learn pretty quickly he's sassy. He's not going to try to go out of his way to welcome you in and, you know, cater to your needs. He's Pierre. And I think that's a wonderful thing for people to realize that just like people, no one's worth is degraded because their personality isn't exactly what we would have them be. You know, somebody doesn't have to be always in a great mood for them to be worthy of care, basic necessities, and respect and autonomy. I think I love the variety of personalities that we have because we can really talk about, you know, should we be kind to everyone? It's so important, respecting everyone. And I also love that you mentioned your son, you know, carrying around the stuffed animal and making a connection here. I think having one of my personal biases or favorites is having younger folks around to really make the connection so much simpler.
Yes.
They don't think it's just, this is someone who's worthy of love and respect. That's simple enough. I'm not going to eat animals, or, you know, I'm going to be kind to animals. And I think as adults, we really start to overcomplicate and rationalize decisions, and it makes it harder to come back to the purity of just wanting to be connected to other beings.
Kids are a great way to start that, for sure, because like you said, they do have a simpler outlook on it. Their lives have not been molded in a certain way as we get older to, like you said, rationalize. And body autonomy, you know, you mentioned for the animals is very important and very different than what we're used to in kid culture as a mom. And I was talking to Tabitha James from Sensible Vegan about this on our interview with her a few weeks ago, because she has a young child as well, is that as soon as you have a kid, books are thrown at you that are farm, their circus, their petting zoo, and then kids have a chance to see animals so rarely unless you go to one of those places. And since we don't, it's like if they go to a petting zoo, they're being given carrots and they're forcing these animals to eat carrots all day. And the people who run the petting zoos don't care that the animals might not want to be fed by young children and touched by young children all day long. But if you go to Full Circle or other animal sanctuaries that have body autonomy in mind, they're teaching respect to the children and saying this animal doesn't like this, or they do like this, and they have their own personalities, and they're just not, there's not grubby paws on a cow all day long. Exactly. Unless it's, you know, Kelsey coming over for a scratch. I think you make a fantastic point that something we believe in, and I think, Lee, you've done an incredible job with Veg Fest, is there are so many different core principles that just are across the board for all of the organizations that might pop up, or for all of the different supporters of Veg Fest. I think different movements really find their center in a lot of different ways, and it's really about getting outside of your own parameters and exploring, okay, well, to your point with body autonomy, how can Full Circle, you know, help make that clear in our education? How can it go beyond just let's respect Kelsey the cow, or let's respect Lucky the rooster, and really bring in some other movements and sort of all work together for a better world for everybody. Yeah, that's very true. And I in a way, I feel that within the vegan and animal rights movement, I feel like sanctuaries are kind of the center, because ultimately, even though everybody is striking at different portions of the root in their campaigns and their approach to veganism and their approach to animal rights and animal welfare, ultimately it's all done for the animals, you know. And so I do feel like sanctuaries really are the grounding point to the vegan movement in that case. And on that note, residents, we're thinking of residents that you guys have. I don't know if everybody is aware of how residents come into your farm. Like, and I know every case is probably different, but like generally speaking, where do residents come from?
That's a great question, and as you've hinted, it's always different. But in general, it's safe to say that the residents at Full Circle and sanctuaries across the board are often coming in from cases where they've been neglected or abused or exploited. So some of the more striking stories that really stick with people or that prompt a lot of behavioral change are sloths, escapees. So we have residents who have run for their lives. We have residents who have jumped for their lives. We have residents who have fallen off of transport trucks on the way to slaughter or on the way to different factories in this animal agriculture chain. And, those are heart-wrenching and really beautiful to see the change. And then we also have situations where, and this is another teaching moment, where people get into situations that they're not prepared for. People, I think it's sort of the other darker side of what is good about us is that we are attracted and longing for connection with other species and other beings, and sometimes people get in situations where it spirals out of control or they really just don't have the resources. So there's a lot of education to be done about what it actually takes to raise a potbelly pig and give the care that they need, or chickens. That can be fairly common. And then we will also see criminal cases sometimes where people have been incredibly cruel to non-human animals, and we and other sanctuaries end up being the final beautiful place that they can finally rehabilitate and recover from trauma. And I think that's a big part of sanctuaries. Not only is it a forever home and things are good at the sanctuary, but there's also a healing process and rehabilitation that the animals go through when they come to the sanctuary. So I think it's important to acknowledge the whole path of being in really awful situations, finding a refuge, but still having a lot to bounce back from. And then the resiliency of the animals is just absolutely beautiful.
That's really great, and I can definitely see how that would play into the education as well, because like you said, a lot of people don't realize. They're like, oh, potbelly pigs are so cute, I want one. You hear people say that and put that on social media and stuff all the time, but they don't realize the care that goes into them. They don't realize that they might be being sold a pig that's not a potbelly pig. It might just be a baby, and it might end up being 500 pounds like Esther the Wonder Pig.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know how much Esther really weighs, but I just said
probably a bit more than that. They're big.
Yeah, and I thought of when you mentioned chickens, like people purchasing chickens and chicks and having them in their house seems like a fun idea at the time because they're like, oh, free eggs. But really, even raising your own chickens can be very, very cruel. It's just a cruel industry. What happens with the male chicks at the hatcheries and these places that you purchase? Where do people even buy these chicks? At like farm stores? Like
that happens. We've it's hard because a lot of the places that you can purchase animals that you should be able to purchase at a store are the same places where people are buying their dog food or where they're buying supplies for their house even. And you make a really fantastic point, especially with the chickens. There is so much medical care that goes into having any chickens, regardless of whether they are Cornish chickens that are typically raised for meat or your more backyard, chickens that have the brighter colors and people love to show off. their bodies have all been manipulated so tragically through selective breeding for laying way more eggs than they ever should have been able to. And we at the sanctuary do a lot of work to give them those nutrients back and to make sure that their bodies are able to sort of fight against those predispositions that they were born with and that they've been molded over time. And I think even well-intentioned people, like you said, cute little pig, or, you know, I'm going to take care of a chicken. I think there's just so much more education that goes into it than a lot of people realize. And it is heartbreaking because a lot of people will realize that they've reached a point that they don't know what to do, or they can't reasonably care for that animal anymore. And it's just a really sad situation for the animal, and also people who are maybe learning a little bit too late what goes into this.
It's a emotional move on their part. They think it'd be fun, so they make a purchase. Base level people, if you can purchase an animal and have it shipped to you through the mail, not humane.
No.
So don't buy chicken.
Humane is definitely a word that I think sometimes people don't really do a logic entry on, or, you know, think through. You're right. I think it's so ingrained in our culture to exploit animals that a lot of people don't even realize that they're doing it. Even the best intentioned people will exploit, and it's a long learning process, but hopefully we can be a part of that and help everyone wherever they are.
Yeah, I think you are. I'd love to hear about some residents specifically, so we can share that with our viewers too. Do you have share a couple resident stories with us?
Okay, sure. So I was thinking that you might ask about residents. Everyone loves them. And I'll shoot you over some photos, and maybe we can drop them in the comments of the residents I'm going to talk about. One who has been on my mind a lot lately is Sienna the cow. So Sienna came to full circle with her sisters Rapunzel, Iola, and Gloria a while back, and they were rescued from a case of severe neglect and cruelty in Pennsylvania, and Farm Sanctuary helped us get those girls to full circle. And Sienna she's striking. Visually striking. She's very beautiful, but also she's confident. She's quick. She's fiercely protective of her friends, and she's so resilient and comfortable with herself. I don't quite know how to describe it, but Sienna is Sienna through and through. And back in December, the animal care team, who it boggles my mind how attentive they are and how quickly they catch issues, they noticed that Sienna had a severe limp, and they got her to Auburn right away. Auburn Large Animal Medicine is a dream for us. They're wonderful. And they identified a really massive infection in her foot. And that led to a really invasive surgery where they had to amputate her claw bone, which colloquially we say, you know, she lost a toe, but for a cow, it's about half your foot. So it was really quite a big deal, and she's been through a lot the past several months. She was in the med barn for a while. Now she's out in an isolation pen so that she can interact with her friends, with the herd. And it's just remarkable. If I had a toe amputated, then it would have been much less significant for me. I correct, but Sienna is just so strong and resilient and confident. And I have to tell you, it was not only incredible to watch as she's begun to heal, but seeing her reunite with the herd, even though they can't be back in their normal quarters and she's sort of in an isolation pen. Seeing every single individual in that herd run to her when they realized they could actually bump noses was so beautiful. I struggle to keep myself together when I tell it, because I think for us, that's so rewarding that we were able to be part of this journey. Even as sort of bystanders, we want to respect her space, but being able to watch that is beautiful. But then also thinking about what it means to Sienna, what it means to the herd, and then what it could mean to someone seeing that for the first time who hasn't really thought about relationships in cows and their really complex social structure. That's why we do sanctuary work, right? Like, that's why we're here. So Sienna has been on my mind a lot lately. We're sort of we're renovating a cow pasture for Sienna so that she can live the rest of her life safely. We've got to move some fence lines. We've got to build new shelters and move our hay feeders and our medical chute and everything to a place that's more comfortable for her. And it will be a ton of work, but totally worth it for her to, to live a life that's fulfilling, and certainly after she's been through so much and bounced back from it so well.
Oh, it's so nice you're able to provide accommodations for Sienna too. Not only, I mean, you're doing so much for her. She's with you, for the rest of her life, but then she had veterinary care that was able to catch her foot issue quickly. Even though she had to have that procedure, she comes back to her family, and she's going to have accommodations. It's so nice.
She will. We have lots of special needs residents, and continuing the message, everybody deserves the care, regardless of whether it's a lot of care or maybe not so much. And speaking of, no matter the need, I think Lucky's another great resident to talk about. And you may have seen him on social media. He is a Cornish rooster. And he's really, man, your sanctuary success story. He, in the nick of time, fell off a truck on the way to slaughter. He was a young guy, but as we know from factory farming and animal agriculture, these babies their bodies are put through so much very quickly, and then their lives end very quickly. And Full Circle supporters, as it happens, were able to get Lucky, give him immediate care, and then get him to us. And we were able to work with another university vet clinic at UGA. They have a wonderful avian specialty group. And they identified that Lucky had a hernia, which is very common in these birds that put on weight so quickly for their tiny little frames. And he had bumblefoot, which is another result of this unreasonable amount of weight that they have on their bodies. And both of those things we worked on. We made sure that he had the surgery he needed and that he had the procedures that he needed, the care. And again, at Full Circle, again, not about us, but being able to see him feel grass for the first time, to go outside for the very first time. And not only that, but trust us. Even though he had very limited exposure, it's really remarkable that these individuals will bounce back and be willing to put their trust in us so quickly. And it takes different amounts of time, and we never would expect someone who's been through that trauma to trust us completely. It's okay if they don't, but when they do, it's really beautiful, because Lucky is now, I would say, one of our top ambassadors, top tour guides. Ricky will often, throw him on her shoulder. He'll sit up there and, sort of be the spotlight while she's educating about the alternatives often of what Lucky could have experienced and what he did go through for his early life. He's just awesome. And again, it's each individual has their own unique story. And we're so honored to be able to tell that story.
Lucky is so very lucky. We see so many stories, not so many, but occasionally we will see stories in mainstream media how, a truck was overturned and a chicken or a cow got loose and they were taken to just how like Lucky did. And, even people who are diehard meat eaters will say, well, they sure were lucky. It's like, well, yeah. And then now you have this bird who, like you said, was genetically altered to be too big for their feet, for example. And putting two and two together for people who visit the sanctuary has got to be so important, because I don't know how many people really realize how much modification goes into animals just to make them easier to breed, quicker to grow, just so we can stuff them somewhere and, kill them and eat them. So, putting Lucky singular, and treating them like an individual, and treating the bumblefoot and helping with all of the issues related to their bodies and care, I'm sure that's a good educational tool as well, and really does make him lucky.
And not only the individual as lucky in this case, but I think there's something to not having to work too hard to have that behavior change. Not that people aren't putting a lot of effort into their behavioral change, but if you're not expecting that you're going to have a change of heart, I think it's really useful to hear about someone and hear about an individual experience, because again, that's about heart and connection. That's not about stats. That's not about X number of animals went through this yesterday, or that factory down the road. They're not made out of glass for a reason, right? I think it's asking a lot of people to do research that's so uncomfortable, and if we can be the sort of middle ground there and just say, hey, I understand that you're uncomfortable with this information. Let me just tell you a story. Let's just talk about Lucky. Let's just talk about Sienna. I think it's a really kind way to approach people and expose them to information that's really important and might change their life.
Yeah, I agree. It is a very kind way to approach it, and it's a non-judgmental way to approach it, and it's something that we can all kind of connect with and relate to, no matter who we are.
Mm-hmm. And there's one more resident I'll tell you about if you have time for it.
Yeah, definitely.
So when I was back when I was volunteering in 2016, Ned the Goat came to Full Circle, and I like to tell this story because I think, especially for folks who maybe still are learning about what different species go through, I think goats are sort of a good intro, right? People will talk about how cute goats are, and I think it's important because it's closer to home, Ned's story. So he is a big guy, big old goat, and he came to Full Circle with a shotgun wound in his leg. And it was by far the worst injury I'd ever seen on an animal, and I couldn't wrap my head around how it happened. Just, it could have been your neighbor, any of us. It was a very residential situation. And he came to Full Circle. It required a ton of care, and it still does. He still has gait and mobility issues. He still is going to deal with a lot, even more as he gets older, a lot more care. And the fact that he came to Full Circle in such terrible condition, and having been through so much at the hands of humans, he also was in a lot of pain when we were treating him. Cleaning a shotgun wound is not pleasant for the individual. And I think the trust that he put in us, and also the resiliency that he's shown he's with the bachelor goats, as we call them, and the group, the family that he's found is just remarkable. And honestly, he's such a happy person. He's independent. He has his own personality traits, and he can be boisterous and really a gentleman and loves attention and will come over and say hello. And again, not that he owes anything to us, but it's really beautiful to see that for him, that has transformed into a place of trust and of desire and curiosity that I think had been stripped of him pretty brutally for a while. So I love to tell the story of Ned because I think it gives a broad scope of bad things can happen anywhere and to anyone, and also beautiful things can come from any of those situations. And importantly, it's not just that one person stepped in or one sanctuary stepped in, it's that everybody who's making Full Circle's work possible can be a part of that story, because we wouldn't have been able to help Ned or Sienna or Lucky if we didn't have a large group of people saying, I want better for individuals and for the whole world. And I think we're so lucky to be able to tell individual stories of success, and success that's because people care. I think that's awesome.
That is really amazing. Ned is a great goat. It's super funny. I know you guys, rely heavily on support donations. Has your donations gone down this spring due to the COVID-19 crisis?
It's difficult. I think COVID has turned all of us upside down in so many ways. Certainly donations. Financials are uncertain for everyone, right? And I think our message is, hey, we know this time is tough and we can't invite you to the sanctuary right now. And, we're protecting the staff, so we're not having tours, we're not having our regular events, we're not having Full Frame, which would have been last month. And it definitely hurts financially, there's no question. And I think what we're striving to do is, even more than ever, bring those stories to a virtual setting. And we really do. Every dollar always counts, but especially in difficult seasons, we stay afloat because people keep their eyes on what this work can do and the lives it can save and the stories it can create. So yeah, it's been a rough season for sure. And it's been a time to learn and really, more than ever, think about how can we give back to our supporters in this time, regardless of whether we're asking them for a donation in that moment. How can we be a light? Because times are tough, and sanctuaries have the benefit of being a really bright spot for people. And I think we've really tried to bring some new content, some new opportunities, and some new ways to connect.
You have, and I've been able to catch several online tours that, Warm Springs is not close to me, so I've only been to the physical sanctuary a few times, but online tours has opened it up where I can catch a quick tour and see Sienna or see Lucky, or they are really fun, everybody watching and listening. So if you have a chance to catch some of Full Circle's digital content, I highly recommend it. It's really great for kids too.
Yeah.
And, please, if you're able to support, there's different ways that Full Circle offers. You can subscribe and support an animal on a monthly basis, right?
Yep. You can do lots of different things. Do a monthly sponsorship, which you're talking about. So if you feel connected to Ned or Sienna or Lucky or any other resident, we are thrilled to be able to have individual folks we're really looking after for an individual resident, learning their story more in depth than perhaps they would otherwise. And we have other, certainly one-time donations or monthly recurring donations, lots of ways to support there. And for folks who are at home right now, another great way to support us, especially our volunteers, who we miss a lot, we are going to be rolling out an enrichment program. So we need lots of toys and different things built for the residents. They get bored just like we do in a pandemic. They're not seeing as many people. And we've really missed volunteers, so we're putting together really simple building projects or craft projects that whole families can get involved in, and we'll do pickups in the Atlanta and Columbus areas. And for folks who maybe are missing that opportunity to really get hands-on and maybe not give a monetary donation, I think getting your hands dirty and building something for the residents is another great way to do it.
Oh, that'll be fun. Now, how again will people be able to find out about the enrichment activities?
So we'll roll that out on Facebook and our website, Instagram, and they're just going to be little printable DIY sheets, little materials list, and some directions. And we'll certainly encourage people to get creative and personalize the different items. But we'd love to have anyone make their mark on the sanctuary by building something and getting creative, and also what a gift for the residents, especially the goats and the chickens. They're so energetic and interested in new things. I think it'll be a really fun way for folks who would normally be able to come on site and aren't now. It'll be a great way to build that connection back up.
Oh, that sounds super fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those.
Awesome.
Andie, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been a really great conversation. I hope it opens people up to exploring more about Full Circle, because it is just a really wonderful place, and I'm glad that you guys are able to do what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Lee. Atlanta Veg Fest has been so kind to us over the years, and we can't wait to get back in a big arena space with you and see how...
Us too, 2021, fingers crossed.
We'll be there. We can't wait. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andie. Bye.
Bye.